All right. While we are getting started, the only kind of public service announcement for the day, my partner Dan and I have launched the ultimate guide to apartment syndication for the active or passive investor. Get your copy on Amazon. We're going to put a link here in the chat box for you to buy your copy of the book. Once you have a chance to check it out, read it, please write us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback as we start thinking about a potential second book topic. But this book is written from all of our experience, all of our knowledge, both from an active investor standpoint as well as a passive investor standpoint. So whether you want to be a multifamily syndicator and actively do it yourself, we give you kind of the step-by-step to exactly how we've built our business and do what we do exactly. Or if you're more interested in learning how to be a very good passive investor, that takes a special craft in and of itself. As there's a lot of different investment opportunities out there, we give you some of the tips of the trade and some tools to really guide yourself to make good investment decisions for your personal portfolio and your financial goals. So get a copy of it. The link is in the chat box, and we are going to get started with today's webinar topic. I'm going to talk for probably about the next 10 to 15 minutes. And I will then open it up for Q&A. But as always, again, we want these webinars to be for all of you out there to improve your business and really learn together. So today's topic, we're going to talk about the apartment syndication disposition process, kind of knowing when to sell, and a couple of different considerations to make as you evaluate your exit strategies. So that being said, use the chat box. I will do my best to monitor things and do my best to monitor the chat box and get back to any of the questions that you all have. But as we get started here, why should you consider selling early? So it's always a topic that we think about when we're evaluating each investment and each property that we own and operate. And so I like to think about the consideration to sell really with kind of three different options. Each property is its own unique asset. It has its own unique performance, its own unique submarket, and all of those considerations need to be thought of when you're considering selling or disposing of an asset. So the option to sell is always there. The option to hold and continue with your business plan as is always there. And then you have this option to refi. And so we always like to evaluate all three of those options when we're thinking about each asset that we have. Especially given today's interest rate environment and kind of, challenging buyer and seller marketplace that we're in, it's very important to really think through each of those three different options as you're evaluating each asset. So let's kind of break it down. Option one, when you're evaluating a sale, I always like to consider, hey, what was the business plan for this asset? What was the hold duration? If we're selling early from that hold duration, whether it's a 5-year hold and maybe we're selling in year 2 or 3, what's the reason why we're doing that? Typically, there's probably 2 reasons. So reason number 1, you'd be selling early, is that you're getting a very good price and you might be achieving your exit multiple or your exit return on investment in year 2 or 3 instead of holding for 5 years. So that would be a great reason to sell early if you can achieve your returns that you set out for that investment. The second reason you might consider selling early is maybe there's a change in your business strategy that is affecting the asset. So maybe you have a maturing loan on the horizon, and it is more advantageous to sell that property. Maybe the investment horizon has kind of run its course, and you are looking to make a change to avoid competition in the marketplace. Maybe you are looking to avoid some upcoming deferred maintenance, depending on the age of the asset and what needs to be done to keep that property occupied. And so a lot of considerations come from that early exit if you are not going to be hitting or exceeding the returns that you set out for, but it's still a very wise option to consider of selling early, even if you might not hit your originally underwritten projections. It's always really good hygiene to think about, okay, where are we at with the property? What challenges are we seeing from a property perspective, a location perspective, a demographic perspective, as well as a competition perspective? So, maybe there is a lot of new supply coming online in your immediate vicinity of your property, and you would expect over the next 24 months to have impactful occupancy challenges that might lead you to making a decision to sell today versus holding for longer. So that's kind of the fundamentals of exiting early or disposing of that asset. Either you're hitting your returns or you have some challenges that you're going to try to alleviate in exiting early. The second piece that we always like to evaluate when we are thinking about disposing of an asset is, hey, what if we just hold the property? What are our options like? Again, we kind of go through that fundamental of how is the competition? How is the submarket performance for multifamily properties, as well as how is our assets performance? Are we maintaining occupancy? Are we able to slowly increase rents? Are we seeing some rental rate increases in that specific submarket? And are we managing our expenses effectively, where our performance on that asset is very sound? It would be very beneficial as long as you're performing well, right? You have strong occupancy, strong expense management, and good net operating income. You would be well positioned to hold during today's market and economic conditions, because I think there's some headwinds ahead of us where interest rates may come down. And so, whether you are in a floating rate loan position or considering refinancing into an agency fixed rate position, it might be advantageous for you to hold that property for the next 6 to 12 months in hopes that interest rates come down and you'd be better suited or in a better position from a loan to value perspective if you wait another 6 or 12 months before refinancing. But we always like to look at that of, hey, if we needed to hold today, what's the option look like? Where are we at? And then that third piece that I had mentioned, what if we refinance the property? So in today's marketplace, a lot of people are probably in a position where existing fixed rate or existing floating rate debt is cheaper, or a lower interest rate than it would be if you refied into an agency or a different bank or private loan. And so, depending on the term of your existing loan, if you have the ability to hold for 6, 12, 24, 36 months, you're probably more advantageous from an investment perspective to hold with your existing debt in place and wait that 6 to 12 to 24 months before you would evaluate a refinance. Now, if you are in a position where your existing loan is maturing in, say, 6 months, and your lender will not be extending the loan for you any further, then you would probably need to really consider refinancing or selling that property right now today, because 6 months can come very quickly. And so it's kind of how we think about the disposition of an asset, and we're always evaluating, do we sell, do we hold, or do we refi? And those are really the key 3 options that you have. And, each property is different. Each submarket is a little bit different. So always consider those important factors when making that decision for your property. The other important thing, whenever we sell a property, we always give our investors the option, and investors have the decision 100% to either 1031 exchange or take their equity and profit and move on into something else. But whenever we exit, we always like to set up a 1031 exchange where any investor who chooses to participate in the 1031 exchange will roll into a 1031 exchange entity to be able to defer some of those capital gains and tax burdens, and it's deferred to the future. If you are unfamiliar with what a 1031 exchange is, we definitely have some videos that go through what a 1031 exchange is, how to do it. The most important thing that you need to know is that you have to have a qualified intermediary, typically referred to as a QI. So a 1031 exchange qualified intermediary who holds the funds when you sell a property. You cannot put the proceeds for a 1031 exchange into your bank account. They need to go directly from the title company at closing directly to that bank account that the 1031 qualified intermediary sets up. They will oversee that money. They will provide you some documents to complete and fill out. And when you're ready to make that like-kind replacement exchange, the QI will be the one to wire money from the QI held account directly to the title company. And so it's very important from an arm's length transaction perspective, you utilize a qualified intermediary to handle any sort of 1031 exchange. So if what I said about a 1031 exchange is unfamiliar to you, check out our videos, talk to an attorney, and also just Google 1031 qualified intermediary in your city and talk to a few professionals prior to setting up an exchange. Make sure you're using the right professionals, because you have to have a qualified intermediary handle the entire transaction to make sure you're protecting yourself and properly deferring any tax obligation under the 1031 exchange tax code. That being said, let me pause for a second. I'm going to catch my breath and I'm going to shift over to the chat box. I really covered everything I wanted to. The 3 main points about evaluating your disposition: are you selling? Are you holding? or are you refinancing? So let me take a minute. We're going to check out this chat box and see what sort of questions y'all have, if any. Use the chat box to ask any questions that you have. If you have a particular topic or a particular property example and you want us to discuss it or evaluate, whether you sell it, whether you hold it or refi, again, use that chat box. I've really covered all of the content I have for today. So if there are any questions, please jump over to the chat box, post your question in there, and I'll be happy to answer them. I'm going to hang out for about another minute or so and see what questions come through. If there are no questions, you know where to catch us. We will be back here next week, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for our weekly Multifamily Investor Nation weekly webinar. So check us out. Yeah, Justin, I hear you. Not promoting a particular company, but I'm glad you've had good experience with them. I've also heard pretty decent things about that 1031 qualified intermediary company. But just do your own Googling, check with attorneys, always check with other investors to make sure. And y'all can utilize your experts in your market to make sure you're doing everything correctly. Let me see what this question is. Factors and questions would be the same for non. Yeah, absolutely. The same kind of logic of sell, hold, or refi, whether it's a single asset that you own 100% of, an asset that you own with a couple of partners, or if it's a syndication asset, you got to think through those same logical steps and make sure you're evaluating, where you're at with the investment today, where you'll be in the next kind of 12 to 24 months, and then make your educated decision on sell, hold, or refi. How do you get to attend the weekly webinars, Oscar? We're going to put the link in the show notes. The page I'm sharing on the screen here is how you register, multifamilyinvestornation.com, and you can fill out this register for webinar now, and that will get you access to each weekly webinar that we have. If there are no further questions, I will wrap things up here between the chat box. If you have any questions, last chance for that. Otherwise, the link to the Multifamily Investor Nation webinar is in the chat box. Use that. Sign up for next week's webinar. We will see you next week, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great and profitable week in your business.